Hi everyone, welcome back to Pine Hollow out of Diagnostics. 2003 Acura MDX. The customer just dropped it off from 3 hours away, and he said that he had the whole dash removed to replace some broken blend doors. The car runs perfect. Everything worked before the dash removal, but now some things are not working. He said he's, out of options. He's tried, checking all the connectors, grounds, whatever, but things are not working. So what's not working? He gave me a whole list. The door locks. He says the only way the power door locks work is from the passenger door switch. He says the remote fob does not work. Now, it doesn't mean the fob is good, but it worked before. And the second fob doesn't work either. And from the driver's door, no action on the door lock switch. Okay? Next, power windows. So let's turn the key on. He says the driver's window works fine, but none of the other switches on this door work. The switches on all the other doors work, and if you disable the window, that doesn't work anymore. So that's fine. Mirrors are fine. He says these memory buttons used to work, they don't work anymore. Then the dome lights don't come on when the switch is in the door position. They do come on when you're just in the on position, but in the door position they don't work. And I know the switch is fine because that little courtesy light works fine, but dome lights are not being activated. And last but not least, the fog lights. So if you're in low beam, the fog lights should come on. The little indicator doesn't come on, and the fog lights are inactive. So locks, windows, dome lights, and fog lights are all non-functional. So let's make a quick game plan on what's the easiest thing to check here. Maybe take a look at some wiring diagrams, see if there's a common thread with all these systems, and can we kill all the birds with one stone? Let's see. Alright, so on the Autel, you go into Toolkit, and then select RK and RF. Nothing. My own fob works perfectly. This one is completely dead in the water. So we have a bad fob. That's one of the customer complaints. Let's check the battery in here before we get too far. So I got the fob apart, testing the battery. 2.7 volts. Yeah, that's not going to cut it. Let's get a 2025 and pop it in there. Alright, brand new battery. Let's make sure it's above 3 volts. 3.2, perfect. Make sure you put it in the right way. There, lights are blinking. One of the customer complaints addressed. I'm sure that didn't fix the fog lights or the dome lights or his power windows, but we got his remote locks to work before even looking at wiring diagrams. So you have to check the basics. The customer might say, oh, this problem started when I did X, Y, and Z. They just had a bad battery in their key fob. Amazing, right? However, it's interesting to note that I'm pressing the button, it's not showing up on the Autel. My Suzuki key shows up no problem. What kind of frequency is this? The little light blinks, This thing doesn't show anything. I have no idea, but the battery fixed the key fob. Okay, so I did some research on wiring diagrams. Let's start with the fog lights. Pretty basic circuit. So hot at all times, 2 fuses come down here. There's the fog light relay. There's our fog light switch. There's the little indicator button that does not light up when you turn the key on. Okay, so yes, it could be a blown 20 amp fuse. Or, what else do we need? We need power and ground. Well, the ground comes, let's see, through the dimmer switch in the low position. G401. Interesting. So we could pop out this button and make sure we have a ground on white and blue when the headlights are on and we're in low beam. We could do that. Also looking at, I printed out here the door locks diagram. So this car is, it's a 2003, so these modules are not on the network, so we can't use a scanner to look at bidirectional data, but it does have modules. It's called the multiplex control unit. It piggybacks off of the driver's underdash fuse and relay box. And on the door, on the driver's door, the control unit here, you can see driver's door key cylinder switch, driver's door lock switch. So this doesn't work. This doesn't work. Driver's door lock knob switch. That doesn't work. And look, they're grounded on G401. So I'm looking for common things here. Powered up by fuse 13. And if you look at the wiring diagrams for the door locks, keyless receiver unit also gets power from fuse 13 and it's grounded at 501. And this now works. We replaced the battery in the key fob. The power door locks work fine. So I'm not worried about fuse 13 or G501. So it's a logic test. You don't need to physically check the powers and grounds. If the component works, it has a good power and ground. Otherwise, how would it work? So yeah, let's attack these fog lights. Let's check for this G401. And where does that live? It looks like left side of the dash right there. Should be a bolt and some wires. We can just pop off this cover or take the button out, whatever's easier. Because the whole dash was out, so I'm sure all the grounds are disconnected, and if one of those is left off, well, it might explain some problems. Alright, so I got the dash panel pulled back a little bit. There's our ground, and it looks like there's even a red mark on there. It looks tight, but I'm not going to touch it until we do our checks. Anything look interesting? Not yet. So for the fog lights at the switch, we should have a constant power coming in from fuse 43 on pin 3, red and green wire. So here's the switch. Middle pin is a red and green, and I'm just using the breakout box to get a known good power and ground. We want to check the power with my little test light on the middle pin. So let's see. No power. How about that? And I know my test light works because if I do find a power, could it just be a blown fuse for the fog lights? It could be. Now, can we check the other leg? So pin 4, white and blue, should be grounded when the headlights are in the low beam. So test light works. So pin 4 is a red and black wire. Nope, I'm sorry. Pin 1, white and blue, they're different for the 2003 model. It looks like it's also ground. Well, that doesn't make sense. Okay, so high beam, it goes out. Low beam, it comes on. And are you supposed to be able to turn the fog lights on even with everything off? That's hot at all times. This definitely grounds it. Huh. Okay, let's check fuse 43 under hood. Okay, so on ALLDATA, if we go to fuse, under hood fuse relay box, fuse 43 right headlight, DRL control unit, fog light switch, right headlight. Is really? Looking again. Fuse 43 USA for the right headlight. See diagram 1014 USA. So that's a power distribution diagram. Let's see here, 1014. Okay, 1011, 1014. Fuse 43. So that should only be powered up when the headlight relay's on. Okay. Interesting. Headlight relay 1, headlight relay 2. So was this misleading? See, it says hot at all times. Fuse 43, 20 amp. That's incorrect. That's very misleading because the fuse 43 is after the headlight relay. So yeah, the fog lights would turn off when you turn your headlights off. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So let's turn the headlights on and check fuse 43. Okay, so let me stick my probe, battery ground, finds the power. Always check your test light, it's going to light up. So on the middle pin with the headlights on, yes, that works. When we push the switch, it should come on. You know, this wire, it's grounded. So when you push the switch, that little indicator should illuminate and we should turn on the relay. So which maybe the little bulb's burned out. We're not, you know, that's another variable. But do we have output on pin 2, blue and green? So put that here, pin 2, blue and green. Okay. Huh. So the switch works, the little bulb's burned out for the indicator. Something clicks, but the fog lights don't turn on. What are the chances that he has two blown bulbs in his fog lights? Possibility. That still doesn't work. So let's keep going with the fog lights. That's one of the customer complaints. So I popped the bulb out for the fog light. Luckily it's easy to access. We can put a test light on there, but I'm just bench testing it. It's blown. There you go. Woo! Unbelievable. This is insane. It works. There's nothing wrong with the fog light. It's just blown bulb. I'm sure it's going to be a blown bulb in this side too. So that's interesting how psychology of customers is like, hey, I touched this and I have all these problems now. Well, I'm pretty sure that this is just a coincidence. And his key fob battery died, and then his fog lights burnt out. Nothing to do with the dash replacement. Look at this. Junk. Customer complaint number 2. Fixed. Well, we might as well fix the little indicator bulb in the fog light switch. Little mini. And you can take the legs off of the holder. and just pull it out. And you can get replacements. I'll put a link. Maybe they're on Amazon, wherever. So basically, just insert the new bulb, and should be as good as new. Now the little green cap, let me try to remove that. Sometimes they rip because they get kind of fused to the bulb. If you want a nice green color on there, or just put the regular bulb in, it'll light up yellow. Alright, so I even put the little green cap on the bulb. So we'll have OEM. Should be as good as new. Let's try it out in the car. Yay! Fog lights. No fog lights. That's fixed. Alright, so now let's take a look at the wiring diagram for the dome lights. So the main switch right here on the dash, off, on, or door, is right here. We know on works fine, off works fine obviously, and then door, if you're in position 2, so this wire right here will be grounded when you're in position 2. It controls the rear individual map lights, controls the front individual map lights, rear ceiling light, through position 2 to arrow E on the next diagram. So that goes to our passenger's under dash fuse relay box on H8. Okay? And then this is the passenger multiplex control unit that piggybacks off of the passenger's under dash fuse relay box. So, you know, if this is not being grounded, it basically senses when the front passenger door or right rear door in the driver's side, it's the other two doors, so they sense that the doors are open. You can see there's a diode in here, and the courtesy lights do work, but something in this logic is not grounding this out when it senses the doors are open. So connector H8, that's the first thing I would check since everything was unplugged. You know, interior light switch, that's plugged in, there's no other intermediate connectors. So passenger's under dash fuse relay box. Now, are there any common connectors that has to do with the driver's power window switch and the power lock switch? So from the driver's door, we know that some stuff does work, but the stuff that doesn't work, this door multiplex control unit has to talk to the driver's side fuse box, communication right there, to tell, you know, this box to do the door locks or open and close the other windows. So that's connector H14, but this is the driver's side fuse and relay box, not the passenger side. So it doesn't look like that's a common thread. Okay, so we're at the passenger side. Here's the fuse box, and it has like 6 or 7 bulk connectors. I found the right one, connector H, looking for pin 8 black and white interior lights for the 2003. So that would be right here, H8. Now, test light to battery ground, if I put on that pin, it's lit up, and if we turn this switch off, on door, so in door, you know, the ground side switch for all the lights is looking for a ground, and this box should turn it on when any of the doors are open, and that does not happen. So, you know, do we have a bad ground? at the box or a bad box because the wiring is totally fine. It's coming into here and then just not being grounded when it's supposed to. Like when this light's on, these lights should also be on in the door position. So to check wiring integrity, obviously the little light is going to light before all the dome lights. So if I add one more amp through my other test lights, you can see the dome lights are dim. If we full ground it, you know, like a 5 amp test light, the dome lights turn on while the test lights are off. So that's a good check. The wiring is good all the way to this passenger side fuse box. So I tried removing the smart part of the fuse box from the fuse box. It did not want to come out. It looks like it should, but there's two connectors. One on the bottom, which you can externally unplug, and I think the other one is internal to the fuse box. That's the one that's not letting go. And you can even see that this A connector is internal and the B connector is external. And our interior lights, black and white H8, that's on an internal 821 pin. So, below right front seat G651. We can check C3 black ground just to make sure it's good. Otherwise, it seems to be a problem with the fuse box. Alright, so we'll just front probe it from here. Test light lights up nice and bright. Nothing wrong with that ground on this fuse box. So next step, what I want to do is check these communication lines. The multiplex communication lines that connect these modules. So we have door multiplex control unit. That's inside the driver's door. There's communication line, power and ground. Then the driver's multiplex control unit, which is the smart fuse box, and that talks to the passenger's fuse box on this pink wire. So I want to do two channels. One right here at pin H14, it's a brown wire. Channel 2, pink wire on B1. So here's a scope, and we have 0 to 12 volts. No problems. Let's turn the key on. See if anything weird happens. Okay, so I don't like that now the voltage is going to almost 20 volts. How is that possible? So the actual master switch here, this is the multiplex unit. You can see the brown wire is right there. So if I unplug this and nothing changes, then we're going after these fuse boxes. If something changes, we're going after this switch. So I'm going to unplug this, look at the graph. Okay, it looks like we went back down to normal communication. So why would this switch, when it's plugged in and the ignition's on, be pulling this communication high? Okay, that's my question right now. And we know that nothing here that has to, nothing here works that has to talk to other modules to, like the other windows have to talk to the modules, and then the power locks have to talk to those modules to make them work. Now when the key is off, we have good communication, and then the remote locks work, and you can explain that by, here's the keyless receiver unit. So that talks to the driver's fuse box, and the door locks are activated by the passenger fuse box. Okay, so that means that circuit, the communication line, is good when the key is off and you're pushing the lock or unlock button. Alright, but when we plug this in and turn the ignition on, we get weird spikes up to 20 volts, and this thing's not active. So we have to check powers and grounds before saying, hey, it's a bad switch. Alright, so let's check pin A1 battery input. Now the fact that this thing is pulling the communication line way up, we might have a ground problem, but let's just start with checking A1 battery input. So my test light from battery ground on this white and yellow wire, sure enough, it lights up. Now let's go from battery positive. If we find a ground, it's going to light up. And pin A12, black wire, should be a ground. So this is pin 1 through 10, 11, 12. No test light. Okay, fantastic. So where does that ground go? It goes to 401, which other stuff that goes to 401 works, like the fog light switch. We proved that. Very interesting. But for now, let's plug this in and provide a ground through my test light, because it's right here. It's very convenient. Just go right here. And I don't know how much current this thing would carry. Probably not much. It's just a module ground. So let's provide that ground. You see, test light's not lighting. Yes. Okay, door locks. Fantastic. Are we done? We're just missing a bad ground at this master switch. Let me just gently close this. And now we can do lock and unlock. Take the key out. Now when I press the lock button, that security indicator should come on. Yes, it does. Fantastic. It's blinking. So if this ground is not there, our door locks, remote door locks still work, but the security light doesn't arm because this thing can't tell the modules which position this lock tab is in. And then it won't set the security alarm. This is really neat. You know, we're not using a scanner, but we're using wiring diagrams and logic. So on the door lock circuit, this driver's door lock knob switch, when it's locked, the door multiplex control unit should know that it's locked and then send that information to the driver's fuse box. And then the car is like, okay, all the doors are closed, all the buttons went down, we can set the security system. That's like a rationality check. So we're missing a ground at this switch. We just have to find out why or where it's going. Let me look that up on ground distribution. Okay, so ground distribution diagrams, this is group 14, page 5, G401. There's our door multiplex control unit, and also the driver's door lock switch. They all tie in. And go to H16 to the driver's side fuse box. Then it goes through the fuse box out in P1 and to G401. So let's check at H16, see if we have a good ground. You know, is there a broken wire in the door flex or something? Or is there a bad ground from the fuse box to G401? So this shouldn't take too long. Alright, let's check connector H16, which is right next door to H14, the communication wire. So test light from battery positive, if it finds a ground, it's going to light up. Always, always check your test light. And then, here's the black pin. You guys can see that right here. No test light. Okay, so H16, no ground. Let's check P1, and to find out what P looks like, you go to connector views, LMNP, light green. 1 should be black, G401. Let me find that 3-pin connector. Alright, very interesting finding. This connector right here, just dangling around. it has the right wiring colors, a black and a light blue. That's supposed to be the P connector. So if we look at this diagram, P1, that's the one we want to check, should be a black wire going to G401. And then this multiplex control inspection connector should just be hanging out, you know, an open connector. So what I'm saying is connector P, I think, is plugged into this inspection connector because the owner was like, hey, you know, it fits, the wiring colors match up, it's perfect, let's just plug it in. That's not how this works. This is supposed to be plugged into the fuse box, and then this is just supposed to be hanging out under the dash for inspection purposes. Let's just double check that we have a good ground on. You sure do. Now where does this thing plug in? Obviously on the back of the fuse box, and then this thing right here is just supposed to hang out in this slot. Unbelievable. So let me see where the heck this thing can plug into. I mean, I can guess. Probably, you know, where does it want to go? Probably in the middle. Kind of like that from the back side. I wish there was a diagram showing where the connectors are. I'm just gonna see if this works. Okay, plugged into the back of the fuse box. And now let's check if we have a ground on that black wire. Yep, there it is. So now everything should work. Let me plug in the scope again. We'll see our waveform. And this card is fixed because the connector was plugged in wrong. The female side's supposed to be just hanging out, and the male side's supposed to be plugged into the fuse box. Insanity. Alright, here we go. Final test. Everything's plugged in. Keys on. Our waveform is beautiful. 0 to 12 volts. All our windows work. Unlock, lock works. Memory. I'm sure once you close the door, the memory function should come back to life. Simply amazing. I'm going to take a picture of for the owner and show him, like, hey, you know this green connector? Yeah. Alright, so let's wrap up the Acura. Fog lights fixed, door locks fixed, power windows fixed, dome lights not fixed. I'm going to call this passenger side smart fuse box. I checked all the grounds. It's just can't ground that dome light circuit. I mean, it draws what, a couple amps, and we verified the wiring to here is good all the way through that master switch. So for whatever reason, it's not grounding that dome light circuit. It knows the doors are open. It displays it on the instrument cluster. You know, it turns on the courtesy lights. Everything's good except for that one driver inside that smart fuse box. So I'll tell that to the owner. Maybe he'll just pick one up on eBay or something, plug it in. Not too hard to do. And that's it. So all separate issues, and only one of them, the windows and door locks, were related to the dash removal on the driver's door. The key fob, that was just a bad battery. So you have to follow the data and wiring diagrams. Use your head. So the customer will be probably a little surprised that it was all separate issues, but it is what it is, and it's, you know, 95% fixed except for the dome lights in the door position. So thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Well, bonus footage. We've got the guts out of the smart fuse box on the passenger side. So this pin right here comes from the dome lights waiting to be grounded. Then I traced it to the middle pin of this component here. It looks like a power transistor. It's supposed to switch this to the ground leg. So either this is not working or the control circuitry, there are no cracked solder joints. So unfortunately, component level repair here is not. Maybe I could send this to Northridge Fix. We'll see if the owner gets one on eBay, plugs it in. If it works, then I don't know. But everything looks pretty nice and mint here. No water intrusion. So I don't know why this would fail in that fashion.